that this is where we are. And if America wants to build a new manufacturing base, I think there just has to be creativity on how to do it and figure out, like what it is that Americans can manufacture. Because out of those things that are being manufactured in China, it is very difficult to just bring them over and start the manufacturing.
I was gonna ask,
which American is gonna manufacture? Americans want to TikTok water. What are they going to manufacture?
Yeah.
My question, I think this boils down to what would it cost to have local manufacturing equivalent, let's say, of China. So whatever is happening in Gounzhou or whatever is happening in Bangladesh, copy paste
and bring it to Arizona.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
when
Ronald Reagan and the Republicans made a deal with the Chinese.
Okay.
And that's when we moved manufacturing to China. And then Bush came back and he doubled down and moved all our manufacturing to China. So you can't go and blame China for things that are happening today. We're the ones who created it. Now, Trump wants to bring it back. All right now, but you've built a beast that cannot be broken. Think about this, right? China is the #1 global market. Global, not American. Global. How are we going to bring that thing back? And then when he's
going to build Gounzhou in Arizona.
All the ladies and gentlemen to buckle up, because the show is going to be a masterclass in money, power, and policy. From skyrocketing housing costs to shrinking 401ks, we also have had multiple job layoffs around us and unpredictable tariffs. Millions of Americans are feeling the squeeze, and Kenyans both home and abroad are not exempt. But here's the thing. Economic jargon on mainstream news barely scratches the surface for most people. So tonight, we are putting the spotlight on Trump's economy, what it means for your wallet, your future, and even your folks back in Kenya. We'll break down everything, including how inflation and Fed policy are eating into your paycheck, what tariffs and trade wars mean for jobs, mortgages, and investments, and how economic chaos in the U.S. could shake Kenya's economy, especially with remittances and aid that's on the line. To help us break it all down is a man who doesn't read markets. He just doesn't read markets. He's helped people navigate them for over 20 years. A veteran in commercial banking, real estate lending, auto and business financing, and someone who knows firsthand how the stock market, policy shifts, and global trade ripple through the everyday economy. He's the vice president of commercial lending at the Harbor Bank of Maryland, a straight-shooting and deeply insightful Kenyan-American voice in finance. Maura Muroki, karibu sana to the OneMicShow. How are you doing today?
Your intro.
What?
Your intro ni mwaki.
I didn't even know it was me.
Okay.
Let me tell you,
maybe we should use this for his next speech at work.
By the way, you're right. And the way that, let me tell you, it's an experience, and thank you guys so much.
Okay.
From Ali, DJ, One Mike. Thank you guys so much for having me. And, there are different conversations that we can have, right? And there's a lot of topics that everybody wants to look at and to say, hey, by the way.
Well, he didn't know that you were there, sir.
No, he didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know you were there.
Yeah, Mika is complaining. Put your headphones on.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, Mika.
And put your headphones right. Arrange the headphones for him.
Arrange
the other headphone. Yeah, that one right there.
How?
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Mika, Ibu say something in English with a roar.
Kwani mimi ni matomoko ndio umeniruka.
Hey Mika, and thanks to Mika, because Mika is the one who put this together. Mika called me and he's like, hey, by the way, what can we talk about? There's difficulties, so we're going to make this something that's going to be fluid. It's not going to be a question and answer. Right, it's got to be what's happening and why is it happening and what impact does it have to the regular mwananchi.
Okay.
Right, and it took me a long time to figure out how to spell Moninchi, but I figured it out.
Okay, you figured it out. Okay.
This guy is speaking like Kamwana's cousin, eh?
Okay,
You hear the way he's speaking?
Yes, I hear how he's
Yeah,
speaking.
okay.
Now, Maura, how did you, first of all, you have over 20, is it 20 or 25 years?
I'm 25 this
Oh,
year.
you have over 25 years experience
Yeah.
in commercial banking. You know, like, how have you survived banking for that long? And you're talking to someone who was in the industry for at least 15 years, but
6
now
months.
you've been there for close to 25 years. How have you survived in that industry with all the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs?
So you know, and thank you for asking that question.
Yes.
Real good question. So when I first started working in banking was in 2001, which was a financial crisis.
Yes, it was the bubble.
The bubble,
Yeah.
the tech
bubble,
the
yeah.
tech bubble just hit, and we were hit with questions, and we didn't know how to survive. Right, and nobody figured it out. So then what happened? We moved monies to real estate, and real estate went from the 2001 bubble to 2008.
Yes.
Put things in perspective. So
Yeah.
all we did was just move funding from one side to the other one.
Okay.
Right. So survival was how to adapt. You know, when you come into this financial being, and I say this to young individuals who want to come into finance.
Yeah.
There's a difference. So I'm a commercial financial person. You were commercial and you were an investment banker. We're two different people, right? I work on just general facts today. Investment bankers look at what's going to happen today and
in the future.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Correct. We live in a different world. So that's why I'm very careful about talking about investment bankers. They get paid the big bucks, but they also take the biggest risk,
Yes.
right? Commercial bankers is a contracted. We're very calculated in what we do.
Yeah, so when we were having a conversation about, you know, like what we're going to discuss about this show with a group, Uno Mike said he knows nothing about commercial lending. And I think it represents...
Banking.
Yeah.
Lending and banking.
commercial
You know, he said
lending.
commercial
Yes.
lending,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, because Maura is a VP for commercial lending.
Yes.
The Harbour Bank of Maryland.
And,
yeah.
and it's not
So-
commercials for marketing.
No, not commercials for marketing.
Okay.
And that's the reason why it's good, because there's a lot of people who hear this term, commercial banking, commercial lending, and they don't know exactly what it is. If I have, you know, like a small aka business, I'm selling a few things off my my pickup truck or off the trunk of my car. Can I come to you? You know, like I have a commercial activity, lend me some money. Or how does it work? What exactly does a commercial lender do?
That's a great question. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start from the beginning in terms of what you said.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been 25 years. I'm a beast.
Okay.
In terms, I've been in this industry for so long, which it means I know how things have gone right and how things have gone wrong. So how do you begin? Great question.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a small business owner at zero, you need 3 years to get financing.
Okay.
Right? So if you're starting off and you're selling curios, things from Kenya, right? You need to be in business for 3 years, because I need 3 years of financial statements.
Okay.
So if you don't have that,
At the bare minimum.
at bare minimum,
Okay.
but if you don't have that, you know, the government has the SBA, Small Business Administration, and then within the Small Business SBA, there's something called the SBDC, Small Business Development Corporation.
Okay.
It's a micro financer. So what they do is that the dollar amounts that they're going to finance you are smaller. So SBA starts at 25,000, if I'm not mistaken, depending. The 7A, and they have minimums, but that's where you start. Somebody who's going to help you
Okay.
go into it.
So if the SBAs are starting at 25,000, how much are you starting at? Or that's something?
No.
My friend, it's commercial.
No,
It's commercial.
It's commercial.
I'll say this. No, what I was gonna say, because I was told I'm not allowed to curse anymore, and my mom's watching right now,
Hiya.
and she said I can't.
Hi, mommy.
Yeah.
And she
Hi,
told me-
Mom.
So you better behave well.
Yeah, I have to behave well.
Yeah.
So we can start anything at 25,000 and up,
Okay.
Right. And because we have other community lenders. So it's not to say if you need a $5,000 loan or a $1,000 loan that we don't have a team that can help you. It's just not going to be me.
Okay. You only help the big boys.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll build big.
Okay, all right. There we go. There we go. So very interesting. You're tuned into the One Mic Show, and I can see questions already coming in. I can see Esther Mulusa here saying, I'm trying to trick the people from Shimalavandu of my whereabouts. Please just announce that I am in the dirty south for now. Thanks. Okay? All right. So Esther Mulusa is in the dirty south.
She's not in Shimalavandu.
No, she's in the
she's in the dirty south. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Appa Esther was also saying, please allow call-ins today. I have a layman's 2 cents now. 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We always say for the people who wanna call in, mapema and your best.
Call now before 10:58.
Yeah, before people start
10:30.
calling. Yes, before 10:30 and 15 people on the line waiting to talk when the show is about to be over.
And,
so the
and
number is
I was told that we have chicken wings at 11. So
yeah, so there's a chicken wing cut off at 11. Wow. Now this is nyuma ya tent.
What?
kind of
Conversation. Mzee
conversation.
anakuja hapa mzee anakuja
Sema
ku
kumwaga mtama.
Yes.
Ngoja kwanza, yani mnakulanga chicken wing kama sivyo.
Sasa unasikia huyu
Sasa Mluya amesikia about chicken wing. Na amekasirika. And this was supposed to be our
Alafu
it was supposed to be our top secret.
alafu unajua Muluya ndio ameorganize
Yeah.
Inatoka kwa kiti gani kwanza tu investigate?
Hiyo hapo hiyo tufanye kesi baadaye hiyo.
Nyuma ya tent.
Nyuma ya tent.
This guy here.
Yeah. So again, the number to call 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak.
Yes.
So there's another question that's already coming up here. That's coming up very early before we get onto Trump's economy.
What? Na tuko na call.
Stephen Bati Sambaza is asking about IULs. So I don't know whether we go to the IULs first, and I don't know whether that's in your lane, because this is another product that has been sold to a lot of Kenyans. A lot of Kenyans don't understand it. They buy it without understanding it. But I think we're going to talk about that maybe later. Maybe let's pick up the call first, because watu wa mapema, we give them priority. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak.
2658. Thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Name and where you're calling from.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Hello?
Reduce your volume.
Yes.
Reduce your volume.
Yeah, mute something on
Whatever
your
is
side.
on the background, reduce it
Yes.
or nyonga it, please.
Okay, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello, this is Esther Mulusa.
Hi, Esther. Karibu.
Karibu sana. And you
Yes.
said you're calling
I'm
us
calling
from the dirty south.
south.
Okay, all right,
dirty
got
Yes,
it.
I'm calling from the dirty south.
Okay,
Yes.
talk to us, Esther.
Now, I'm not an economist.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm not an economist, but I'm just an observant Kenyan. So
Okay.
I just want to talk about how most people all over the world, including the United States, Kenya, people are not really educated as economics, like basic economics, how their countries make wealth, how their countries lose wealth. We really don't know what happens in our countries.
Yes.
The first experience was when I was in Kenya, when I left Kenya for the first time in a major way. Okay, first of all, when I was a university student, I remember we went to Namanga. We went to cross the border at Namanga and we went into Tanzania. That was a while back. And I remember talking to the ordinary Tanzanian in the Tanzanian side. And there was this leftover, from Nyerere times. Nyerere used to put in the curriculum for Tanzanians to learn basic economics at a very elementary level. And I remember hearing that from the citizens. They knew more than Kenya then. They knew about revenue collection. I was very impressed. So that is one. Then the next time I really left the country, I went to South Africa. And I was a young university student. And I remember learning so much as a foreigner about my own country. When I used to take the drive from Nairobi to see my grandma in Vihiga, you see those tea bushes, and I used to feel that this is ours. But I learned in a real way when I went to South Africa that tea does not belong to us. It belongs to a white company, you know. And then I learned in South Africa, about foreign, these international treaties that were made a long time ago. Some of them were made during colonial times. I remember I didn't like the tea that I was drinking in South Africa. I didn't like the flavor. And I learned that South Africa had a trade pact with Ceylon, Sri Lanka today, you know, that South Africa got its tea from Sri Lanka. And I wondered why, because Malawi has tea, Kenya has tea, you know, why would South Africa have this colonial pact, colonial trade treaty, their treaties, right? Isn't that a way of weakening trade within Africa, you know? So I learned some of these things from a personal experience. Why am I drinking this Rubu tea that tastes really funny? Because, you know, Kenyan tea is very high quality.
Yes.
So I learned a whole bunch of things as a foreigner. How that most of what we have in Kenya does not belong to us. They are, you know, foreign companies that really run our country. You know, I learned about the white settlers who have relatives in South Africa actually, and that they own most of the land. So what Trump is doing now, he's kind of opening our eyes into so many things. We are learning so much stuff that Africans, we give away our raw materials, you know, instead of giving it value addition. Why do they take the raw materials and make money out of our wealth, you know?
Okay.
So I just wanted to talk about that, and then talk about how even our leaders seem to be illiterate economically. You know, they are not economically empowered because the things that they do. For example, Trump's tariffs. Any country who resists, like Madagascar or Burkina Faso, their tariffs are, you know, high, 38%, you know. But Kenya seems to be one of those countries that, you know, has a tail between its legs, and, you know, we've got 10 or 20%. So I think the world is kind of going to shift. You know, people need to push back, like Namibia,
Yes.
like Burkina Faso, and we just really need to do it, because from what I know, there was an old trading route that existed before the West. The West was not part of it. They were actually left out of it. But now they've come and taken control of everything.
Absolutely.
And they are bullying everybody. Bullying, what's his name? I hope I'm making some sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Bullying,
yes.
this guy who was bullied in the White House in front of the whole world, you know, that you must give us your oil or whatever it is, or else,
Or
you know,
Zelensky.
you're not going to
Yes.
yeah, Zelensky, yeah. Or else you're not going to defend you. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents that we in the diaspora, we learn a whole lot more about our country when you're outside looking in than the people who are at home, you know. It's like we are so brainwashed, and we have these narrow visions, and we think the West is a savior, you know, when they really are not. And we really don't have to kowtow to them. We have to stand up to them like this woman who is not even being celebrated as a, you know, African woman leader. I heard about her because of her resistance, you know, sending away 500 Americans who had no visas. That's what brought her into the limelight. But I
Yes.
didn't know that we have another, you know, actually elected. You know, Samia took over because of somebody's death. But this is something that the world should, you know, highlight. But in Africa, it's like we are ignored. But let me not go on and on. I'm a great talker, but I just wanted to point those out.
Thank
that
you.
we need to create our own markets. We should not rely on the East. The last thing I'm going to say is that Africa is a huge continent. If we can empower ourselves, we can trade within ourselves. The way, why should South Africa go and buy tea because of a colonial treaty outside Africa? Why not empower the people from Kenya and Malawi who grow tea? Why can't we trade within the continent? We are many. We are more than 1 billion. If we could just empower ourselves, open up our borders, and sell each other these goods, you know, we can do it. We don't have to rely on Western markets that are exploitative. So I'm going to stop there for now, but thank you for listening to me. I know I talk very fast, but I just had to put my 2 cents in.
Thank you. Thank you so
Esther.
much. Thank you so much, Esther. You know, there's one thing that Esther said that that I've always known, but Kenyans sometimes don't like acknowledging this, and that was about Tanzania. Tanzanians are so schooled in so many other things But I think Kenya, because we've learned English, there's this dangerous assumption that we always have, that we know
We're
more
superior.
than they do, that we are superior.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous assumption.
Yeah, assumption in the
Yeah.
that if you speak English, you are knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're well educated.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's very dangerous. There's so many other things that they know. And here, Esther Mulusa was talking about, just some small issues here and there to do with the economy, because economics is one of those sciences that unfortunately a lot of people are unschooled on, not only in Kenya, but across the entire world. And that's the reason why people don't understand, what's happening at a macro level. They hear all these complicated terms, this rate and that rate, monetary policy, fiscal policy.
So
these are things people hear, but they have no basis
Idea.
of how this affects me, at an individual and a personal level.
Yes.
And I know, Mika, there's something that you wanted to say before we go back to Mwaura to get started with this conversation.
No,
Mika.
actually, to get this started, this conversation, I just want to say now, we've spoken a lot to Mwangere, to ask Maura. So, Maura, we're looking at this current situation as it is and how Esther has explained colonial treaties and whatnot. If we simplify it to what, and she did bring in Trump into this conversation, and now I want to bring us back into the conversation of why we are having the show today. So, Maura, what are tariffs? If you can just try to explain to us from a commercial point of view, from a commercial business point of view, businesses are the ones which are being hit with tariffs. Yes, the countries are being hit with the tariffs, but the tariffs are going down up to the businesses. And they're affecting businesses here in America, which are the employers and also the suppliers of consumer goods. And also, they're affecting businesses from the countries that are getting the tariffs, and they're the manufacturers of these products that the businesses here import and come down to us, the consumers, for consumption, and also employ people to sell those goods that are being imported. So what are tariffs in a layman's term? How can a layman term, who doesn't understand tariffs, and how do they work?
So Mika, thank you for that question. By the way, that was the longest-winded question I've ever heard in my life. That thing, it started simple, but that when it
is a simple question.
I wasn't ready for it. I was like, I'm ready for it. I went to it, and then you went to other examples. But thank you, Mika,
Yep.
and also again, thank you. Mika is the one who spearheaded me to be here with you guys. So once again, I give the flowers. Tariffs are taxes. That's what you are. So tariffs are taxes that come in from products that are manufactured outside the United States of America, right? So somebody goes in. So when you buy, then I'll use my example because you guys can see me on video. So Citizen is a watch that's made somewhere else. I'm not bullshitting. I wear a cheap. Yes, I do wear a cheap watch, but somebody is
So you claim.
allegedly. But somebody has to pay the tariff, a tax that comes in, the import tax.
Yes.
And that import tax has nothing to do with what you're going to get taxed forward after it gets here. So what we have to do is figure out, when everybody's talking about tariffs, so let's put it together. So the United States is going to, we have tariffs, taxes that come in, product that comes in, which comes, the consumer is the one who has to do it, pay for it. So a product is $10. Now all of a sudden, once it lands in America, it's $12, right? That's zero. And then after that, once you goes into the market, then somebody else is going to tax you, your state, your local, and somebody else. So that $10 product that came in at $12.50 now is $15.99 or $18.99 because of tariffs.
So one of the confusing things that I think, and not to get political, but we're just talking about the economy as it is today.
Yeah.
One of the things that Republican voters were being told, or Republican supporters were being told, is that the tariffs are going to be paid by those countries. China is going to pay the tariff, or Vietnam is going to pay the tariff. But what you're saying is,
Or Bangladesh or China.
is that this tariff comes down to the price that the end consumer
Correct.
pays. Because if I'm an importer, I'm importing, like covers for this cell phone, for example, for $10, and I'm selling them for $15, and then now there's a $5 tariff. So that means now I'm paying an extra $5. So that $5, I'm gonna increase the cost. So the end consumer is gonna pay more money.
Bear the cost.
Yes.
So generally speaking, most goods that are imported are gonna experience some kind of inflation.
Yes, and everything. So let's put things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So when we said it, when they said electrical and things and car, we're 25, and durable goods are 10%, right? That means your cost of goods goes up by 10%.
Wow.
Your cost of goods goes up by 25%.
Yes.
Right, because it's the end consumer who has to pay for it.
Yes.
Right. That's what you're dealing with, right? And then and you know, this is going to be the next question. All right, so we do a reciprocal on the other side. But let's put a spade together. Americans import more than they export.
Correct.
Right. So who's winning right now?
We are consumers.
No.
So reciprocal. When you say reciprocal, you mean matching
Tit for tat.
Matching. Yeah,
what the other guys
Correct,
do.
correct.
Okay.
But he said something that most people miss, because my question would have been, what exactly do Americans export? Because, am I wrong? Because because you're bringing in stuff, so you're saying whatever is coming in is going to be hit with a certain percent in tariffs, which means that when China is reciprocating, or it decides to retaliate, it's whatever that is being exported to China gets hit.
Yeah.
But what is being exported vis-a-vis what is coming into America, like
America exports, for example, a lot of agricultural goods.
Yes.
Like soybeans.
Yes.
America does export a lot of agricultural goods, and you're seeing now farmers starting to get affected.
But yeah, so then compare
Yeah.
what is being imported. What do Americans consume?
So I think the question here, Maura, is that a lot of people now, a lot of the Kenyans who all about Trump, they've kind of gone into the darkness. We'd love them to come back and talk to us and tell us what's going on. But part of what they were saying is that it is unfair. Why are they taxing us? Or why are they imposing a tariff on us while we cannot impose a tariff on them? Because there's that talk. Because now here I'm representing the regular person who loves Trump, and that's how they were reasoning.
So,
like these guys they're charging us, so it's okay. So let's also charge them because it's unfair.
So if you put things in a real global, right?
Yeah.
Real global, right? And I think somebody said this the other day. The Chinese didn't become the market that they are until the 1980s. So all of us in this room were born in the 1980s, right?
Not all of us.
Not
all.
Actually, maybe you.
It's just me and
no,
you.
we were born before 1984.
Okay.
That's
okay.
when
That's
when the Ronald Reagan and the Republicans made a deal with the Chinese.
Okay.
And that's when we moved manufacturing to China. And then Bush came back and he doubled down and moved all our manufacturing to China. So you can't go and blame China for things that are happening today. We're the ones who created it. Now, Trump wants to bring it back. All right now, but you've built a beast that cannot be broken. Think about this, right? China is the number one global market. Global, not American. Global. How are we going to bring that thing back? And then when
he's going to build Gounzhou in Arizona.
Oh well.
I'm just saying. See, because basically, like, where does everybody go to source for goods? You go to that big market. Isn't it in Guangzhou? Or
do Arizonans have the skills of working in those Guangzhou?
Working in those Guangzou factories.
Okay, Mika, now you're asking many questions. Mina Sema too, he's going to go look for space. Where there's space, he'll take these things and dump it. In your plan, because if there really was a plan, that somebody actually had a plan, it would have been well thought out, well laid out, and we wouldn't be where we are now. And it's going to get worse.
So even like to add on to what you're saying, DJ, cheese comes out of Wisconsin in America. But right now, cheese comes out of everything foreign. look at your labels. Kruger cheese, whatever it comes in, it does not say Wisconsin.
Where does it come from?
It comes from China, or it comes from a foreign market. Somebody
Wow.
who's getting charged 25% right now.
Wow.
So my cheese products, because I like a sausage, egg, and cheese in my breakfast sandwich. So
The Kenyan sausage or this nasty
City.
American sausage? Okay. Yeah.
More is American.
Amora is American.
Oh,
Like,
so
American.
so here
Whoa.
Jewish stories are transformer.
I know.
I'm American. What you know? I
Hold on, hold
I
on.
was gonna say this to you. Ali.
That question about transformer, is it a Nyerit question? It's a different question.
let's not get distracted.
Oh,
here.
sorry.
You guys
How-
are getting
But,
distracted.
like
Yeah.
he says, yes, I'm American, but
Yeah.
I use your line all the time.
Yeah.
I'm Kenyan by birth,
American by design.
Okay.
American by design.
Uh-huh.
Mugikoyo by choice.
Jesus, I wish you would.
Okay, so Apple, we're gonna send you a patent fee. We're gonna send you a patent fee for using that for using that line. Don't worry about it. Invoice coming.
Okay,
You're
tell us about-
a commercial lender, so this will be nothing
Yeah.
for you.
Well, in the commercial lender, and we said that we're gonna move into that commercial banking
Yes.
area, right? So, what does it mean to be a commercial lender?
No, but before we
Okay.
go back there, like just so that we do not lose the train of thought of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like in as far as the manufacturing is concerned, because you're talking about cheese now that's coming from China, and a lot of products that people are using day to day. These are products that are coming in from China, and the one thing that I had Tim Cook, Apple CEO, say. People are constantly talking about these jobs were being offshored because of labor costs, but it's like there's something beyond that. Right now, even if you were to return those jobs here, even if American labor cost was to go and be at par with the Chinese labor cost, those skills are not there, because these are very precise skills that are required, and it's not only the skill to build the product, to build the iPhones, and to build all the other American products that are being built in China, but it's this other ecosystem that surrounds the factories that are building those products.
Moving those products.
Yes.
The whole what is it called? The Amazon. What do they call that thing? When the way they're moving
The
things.
Supply chain, yeah.
Yes,
chain.
that thing is a whole.
So it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Overnight.
No. it
Those
doesn't.
of us who work in the manufacturing industry, we can tell you. Like
moving your products, right?
yes,
Bringing them in.
we can tell you if our product was to be, if it was to be manufactured here, first of all, beyond just the cost of building the end user will pay like triple the price. Beyond that, there's also the fact that these very precise skills that are required, and we do have skilled craftsmen within our company, but getting them at scale. If you're going to start building this stuff at scale, getting them at scale is just a problem, because even getting a few of them is one of the most difficult things to do. And I think those are the things that I think people need to live in the reality that this is where we are. And if America wants to build a new manufacturing base, I think there just has to be creativity on how to do it and figure out, like what it is that Americans can manufacture. Because out of those things that are being manufactured in China, it is very difficult to just bring them over and start the manufacturing.
I was gonna ask,
Yeah. Okay.
before,
Which American is going to manufacture? Americans wanataka kwa TikTok wote.
Wanataka kuinfluence.
What are they going to manufacture?
Yeah.
my question, I think this boils down to what would it cost to have local manufacturing equivalent, let's say, of China. So whatever is happening in Gounzhou or whatever is happening in Bangladesh, copy paste.
And bring it to Arizona.
Yes. Or Virginia.
Or India, Hyderabad.
Yes, Hyderabad. Maura to you, over
Yeah,
to you.
no,
Because
and
that's the
every-
thing.
Yeah.
And what you said, but let's put things together, expenses, right? So as a banker, when I look at a company, I don't look at your top line number, your gross sales. I look at your net income. Can you
you
pay me
profitable?
back?
Yes.
Exactly. Like you could be a $22 million company or a $50 million company, but if you're losing it on the back end, doesn't matter to
When
me.
you say losing, what's losing? Like when you say
I mean,
on the
making
back
a
like you're
end?
in the
loss.
red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're
if
never
if you're a 50 million, but you're bringing in what your profit is what?
zero.
There's a lot of
nega-
50 million companies that are bringing in zero negative.
Zero.
Yes, zero
Yeah.
negative.
They-
That's what we
zero.
mean.
They're
Okay.
equaling out,
Not-
which
not-
means they can't take on anything
You
else.
cannot take on anything else. So,
Yeah.
and the thing is, like they say, the dog story: don't chase your tail. Right? The dog that's going in a circle.
Yeah, you'll go in
chase.
circles,
All
yeah.
you do is sit in circles. Man, I lost my train of thought because I wanted to say about something that you said, but at the end of the day, right? If you're in this market, and no, if you're in a business owner, if you're a business owner,
Yeah.
right? Zero is what you have to find. Figure out what your zero is. And zero is not top number, it's bottom number.
So what do you mean by bottom number? What
So
do you
your
mean?
net income.
Your net income.
Your
Okay,
net
so your
income.
bottom line.
Your bottom line.
And that profitability is actually what, in the long term, determines the valuation
Correct.
of a company. Now, there's a question here that was coming from Rachel Macharia. Before we go to Rachel, namkaribisha Mimo Koinange, karibu sana. Thank you for tuning in. I can see and Mimo Koinange also from Dallas. I can see Atieno Ayegba Okech all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
What up,
Karibu
Jackie?
sana. Yeah. All right.
Hiya,
And then
Bora Bizzle is here.
then we
There are
have
business here.
yeah
Sizzle.
then we have an educated Stephen Batty saying an educated electorate is dangerous. Is a dangerous one. Esther Mulusa touched here. And then Apa, I can see Edgar Ogechi, karibu sana, and Kez Seisi, karibu sana, and then also we have a number of other people who are tuned in. I think on YouTube. We also have Wairimo, karibu sana. Wairimo says, hey friends, warm greetings from California, Costi ya Magharibi. Karibu sana Wairimo, thank you so much for tuning in. But there's a question here I want to take to Mwaura that's coming from Rachel. And Rachel is asking if you worked at multiple employers. Now, this is now coming back to America. If you worked at multiple employer, would you advise to roll over the retirement funds to one account or have them stay? I have my theory on this, but let me hear you first.
This is a very personal
Yes.
question, right? There's no right answer to say yes or no, right? In order to sustain things, I would say put it together, but that does not always mean that it works out in your favor. So I've worked at multiple banks. I have 2 401ks and managed by 2 different companies. They're coming from two different companies, but Fidelity is the overall company that manages it, right?
The fund.
And
Fund
they
manager.
fund, and because each 401k is individual. One's very aggressive. My oldest one is extremely aggressive. My other one is just in case things go bad.
Yeah.
Right.
playing it
So
safe.
It's called the polite.
yeah,
Polite.
the polite. So you have to look at your impact and what's going on in your life, and make a good decision for you, whatever that means. Right. I can't tell you, but I would say this: if you're under 40, go aggressive.
Okay.
And if you have children, manage your risk.
Play safe.
Yeah, play it
Okay.
safe. Right.
Alright.
If you're single and 45, man, let's go shoot.
And if you live in Baltimore, I'm just asking for the guys who
Make sure you have
T-shirts
make sure
and-
you have a bulletproof vest.
So
even like good question. Put this: Baltimore has one of the biggest STIFEL, STIFEL, one of the biggest management companies in the world,
okay.
and they're
Now-
based out of Baltimore.
Okay, good. Now, sticking on that 401k question, I have a theory, and this is, like my specialty within personal finance. I always 100% of the time tell people have control of your 401k. If you're moving companies, you have 60 days to transfer it to an individual retirement account, an IRA. Please do it. I know a lot of times people take it and give it to the other company that they're joining. My advice, and this is based on so many people have advised and so many things that I've seen, when you're moving companies, or whatever brokerage you prefer, whether it's Vanguard or Fidelity or T. Rowe Price, move it into an IRA. Now, with my understanding that in personal finance, because there's the language that you used, aggressive, conservative, moderate. What I've come to learn, like talking to a lot of people, 90% of the people do not know what that means.
So, and so glad that you said that.
Yes.
So IRA, I'll give you, and now two bankers are talking to each other,
Yes.
right? Which
Yeah.
so we have to slow it down.
Yeah, we have to slow it down
We have
and
to
be
slow it
careful
down.
not to get too much jargon.
So when we go into
I'll
it,
blink twice when you guys lose me.
Yeah.
you just blink twice.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, so retirement accounts have multiple variations,
Correct.
extremely.
Yes.
Multiple variations, and it's what you think and how you feel where your life is going,
Yeah.
right? So I'm of a different aspect because IRAs have restrictions. Individual retirement account, IRA means individual retirement account.
Yes.
And the individual retirement account has extreme restrictions in how you can access that money. So if I was told not to curse, if things go bad, you're going to pay a fine to fix yourself with an individual retirement account. However, with a 401 or 403, you can borrow against your own money without penalty. And you can figure out how life is. If you cash out, then you might get hit with some fines, and that
Yeah, if you cash out before the age.
So yes. So I get that point, and maybe we need to have a show, like exclusively on 401k.
Yeah.
And and the clickbait title was "Is your
Gotcha.
401k in
Yeah.
trouble?" So maybe we are within topic, but the penalty part. There's a penalty part of whether you have a 401k or whether you have an individual retirement account, an IRA, like if you pull out the money. And then there's also the borrowing part. When you borrow from your own 401k, I think something that a lot of people, even as bankers, that we never used to tell people is that that's a form of penalty that you're paying. When you're borrowing and you're paying an interest, it's a form of penalty. So within it is a form of penalty, because at the end of the day, and I know you're still a banker, and I would reason exactly the same way. When I got out of banking is when I was able to see certain things outside that perspective.
Okay, so what are we considering the penalty? I just want to understand what we consider the penalty.
And let me hold you there for let me hold you there for a moment. With a penalty, with whatever rate you're borrowing, whatever amount or whatever rate you're borrowing, because I think the penalty when you pull it out before you turn 59 and a half is it, what percentage is it? It's 5%. Yeah. So when you're borrowing, it could be, and that 5% is a one-time fee. When you're borrowing, the interest will continue accruing for as long as you've not paid it.
Yep.
So that 5%
It doubles up.
that you were trying to avoid, you're getting it when you borrow. Now, there's another strategy, there's another maneuver, and this is very complicated. Yeah, you have to inbox me, and you have to give me a kakasha or a kabahasha if you want me to help you do this. Like moving your traditional, slowly moving it to a Roth over time.
Yeah,
because moving from a traditional to a Roth, and again, here we're getting into too much jargon, is what's called a taxable event.
Yep.
Yeah, meaning that you will pay tax, but once it's moved, whatever you get in the Roth, it will forever grow, and you can withdraw it, and you will never be taxed again.
And by the way, that's exactly correct. There's caveats in it, and
Yes.
I think it's very complicated, and it's a different show.
Yes.
when your kids go to school, you can borrow against your retirement accounts. If you buy a house, you can borrow against your retirement accounts. But that's complicated another day for
Yes,
another
and
one.
I
agree.
was gonna mention that because my experience with 401k was that you could borrow without penalty if you're gonna do certain things.
Correct.
Purchasing a home is one of them.
Yep.
Yes.
And basically, you pay so you're taking from yourself and you're paying yourself back.
Yeah.
And there's no penalties.
And DJ, Amosh, that's what people don't realize. When you borrow against your 401k, that interest is your money. You're paying yourself
Yes.
that interest. But we can do this for another day.
Yes,
and,
we
and
can
so,
totally do this
so,
one
so
another
for the home, that's something that in my experience, I would advise folks to look at that. Look at whoever your financial
Like if you're
advisor.
looking for a down payment for a home.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Or even if, let's say, you wanted to purchase furniture or do whatever. So what
Yeah.
you're doing is you're robbing Peter and you're paying Paul.
Yeah.
You have $10,000 or $20,000 that you want to use, or you've seen furniture, you want to furnish your house, but you can't take that money and put it direct to the furniture. You would move it to the home, and then you take it out of your house.
Yeah.
So there's musical chairs you can play, but you're not going to be penalized on you using it towards the purchase of your home at the point in time when you're purchasing.
Yeah, so depending on what you're borrowing for, if you're borrowing to get money to go to LA7s, now that's a problem.
No, that in fact,
that is a problem.
You
But-
might meet Kenyan
Yeah.
Jambazi one mic of
but,
Baltimore.
but if it's borrowing that's eventually gonna grow your net worth, like you're putting a down payment on a home,
Correct.
so that might make sense. So I think like you need to be judicious, because I think one thing that I learned, like now after I got out of banking and I was able to see things clearly. I mean, I think Maura Bado has not gotten that clarity because he's still inside. There's certain things that you don't see clearly until when you're outside. Is that the reality? The biggest beneficiary of a majority of the borrowing that happens out there is the bank.
No, I agree with you.
Yes.
And before you say, Mose, I agree with you. 10% is the penalty. No, so the thing is, banks are not now for profit. I'm a for-profit business,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And whatever my number is, but I'm a for-profit business. I have shareholders.
Yes.
I have people who expect a return, a rate of return. So when I started Howard Bank of Maryland, the reason why Howard Bank of Maryland started is because they were redlining in Baltimore. And they weren't.
Redlining, for those who don't understand, explain that. Yeah.
So redlining, they were picking and choosing where they lend, and they weren't lending to black and brown people. So they used to write a map that say, don't put things in West Baltimore, East Baltimore, Cherry Hill, somewhere. Redlining, they tell you, all right, all thing we're going to do is Federal Hill, because that's where the rich white people live. Redlining. So you're discriminating to everybody around the place. So that's how Howard Bank began.
Okay.
Right? And so we came in and was like, hey, how can we put capital to black and brown people? And that's what sometimes I come in, I'm like, hey, we have to put that money back in. Sorry.
Yes.